right, let's talk about the break. That's that spot in the voice that sometimes presents a challenge where we feel like there's a transition taking place, and sometimes it doesn't feel very smooth. And we would like to have that sense of navigating that part of the voice smoothly. Now, people may experience this sense of a break at different spots in the range, but I was taught that physiologically, there actually is a really important transition point that takes place between the notes E and F, and that can be in different octaves, depending on whether it's a treble or a bass voice. You could say female or male, or depending upon where the voice sits, that E and F may be in a different octave, but it is actually that point that we need to address if we want to smooth out that sense of a break. The pitches from E down are part of what are being produced by the chest voice, that set of muscles or that vocal process that results in what we all understand and have a sense of as chest voice. In general, those pitches that feel like they're resonating down lower in the body, they feel maybe closer to speech, and they have that kind of grounded, very strong sense. Then from F and above, we could consider those pitches in head voice, in that set of muscles, that vocal cooperation, which brings in a dominant use of the head voice. The upper process is another way that you could term it. Now, if we think of the voice as two separate things that are switching back and forth, which sometimes there is that sense, there is that approach, then it would be like you're either in chest voice or in head voice, and you have to choose between the two. And sometimes that presents a challenge. Now, I don't want to disregard somebody else's approach or someone else's vocal technique, but I will say that my approach is an understanding that there is always a cooperation between the head voice and the chest voice. That those two sets of muscles, those two processes, are actually working together whenever we make a sound with our voices. There tends to be either a dominant head voice or a dominant chest voice at any given time, and it generally does have to do with the pitch. So when we're in that lower range, it's the chest voice that's dominant. When we're in the upper range, it's the head voice that's dominant. And then there is this wonderful middle of the voice that can feel like it's a sort of a no man's land. It can be a question mark. Well, what do we do here? And it's that wonderful middle of the voice, which we tend, maybe not everybody, but we tend to kind of speak in that cooperative blend of upper and lower. If we're speaking well, and if we're speaking on the breath, and if our voices are open, then there's that cooperation taking place. And so we can actually let that come into our singing technique. So when we're talking about that cooperation, there's a balance involved. And the break tends to occur, or to be the most clumsy, if you will, when there is a lack of balance. And in that spot between E and F, again, the one for female or upper voices right above middle C, and an octave below that for men or lower voices. At that point between E and F, there needs to be a sense of balance, not of pushing, and also not of pulling so far back that there isn't actually a pitch there. Sometimes when people are afraid of the break, they almost take the whole voice out of making sound, if that makes sense. And then there will be sort of a gap. And if we can begin to trust that by hearing those pitches, allowing the breath to meet up with the pitch and the vowel, right in that spot without pushing on it, we can begin to build a kind of a bridge in that transition point that is strong and clear. So let's try that. One of the techniques I use is just a simple connection to the vocal cords by saying ah, ah, ah. And I feel like I'm placing that right there on the cords, very gently, but very firmly and clearly. Ah, ah, ah. And just hearing that pitch and letting that happen. And then, if I want to approach that point, that transition point between E and F, ah, 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 ah. Just say it. Ah, 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 aha. And I see if I can hear that pitch and let my voice speak it clearly. So give that a try. And you can do some kind of easy humming. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And as you do that, bear in mind this sense of balance so that you have the upper process, that head voice coming down with you, if you will. Ha, kind of a sigh. Ha, and making sure it's on the breath. So the throat is open, everything's easy. And if you have difficulty, if it feels like there's some kind of weight, you might think about the idea of like a boy soprano or a child, a very light, easy approach to making sound. Aha! Another way of finding that childlike approach that really brings in the cooperation between head voice and chest voice is a very clear little vowel, like maybe in saying mama. Pretend like it's a little doll or something. Mama! And that clear, focused vowel, when you focus on the idea of making the sound like that, not trying to make it feel like that, but approaching it with that intention of a clear vowel, breath connecting with that vowel and that pitch, and the breath always moving up. Never tight, never holding the breath, but just simply speaking, mama. And if you start, let's say, around the C, above this break that you're approaching, mama, 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 always thinking of pointing up into that little spot. And it also involves the resonance up in the head, that wonderful nasal forward resonance, not because you're going, na, na, na. You aren't just sort of isolating that and only doing that, but you're still open here. You have that sense that it's also resonating clearly in the chest, but you're just letting this happen. You're not making something happen. But you do sometimes have to think very small and very clear on these little vowels, because from day to day, if we don't use that part of the range, if we don't walk around talking up here in this part of the range, then it might feel very strange to just suddenly start to sing there. So one thing you can do is entertain that part of your range more often. Speak up a little bit higher. Make sure that you're on the breath. And yes, of course, it will seem strange to your own ear and maybe to others, but that's one way to develop that part of the range. And especially sopranos and tenors, when you're going to be coming back and singing again, you want to be letting that part of your voice participate, and actually exercise it. And this is really one of the very best ways to do it. You might feel like Minnie Mouse or Glenda the Good Witch, but that's okay. So, mum, 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 mum. Mum, 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 mum. So that's E on the bottom. B, E. Anyhow, you get the idea. So as you work with your own voice and going from the upper to the lower, keep pointing that wonderful clear vowel into your resonance, and let the breath be going up, 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 up. And see if that can help even out that sense of a break. Thanks for tuning in. I hope that this was helpful, but bear in mind that this is not a comprehensive discussion by any means, and there's a lot more that could be covered, but every voice is different, so it isn't really one size fits all. And I'd love to be part of your vocal journey and help you explore this issue further if you're interested in just getting together for a consultation or a lesson. Please feel free to call me. It would be my pleasure. Thanks again, and bye now.